Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting here after Carlisle have won a game of football. I repeat, we've won a game of football away from home at Barrow. And oh my God, how good did that feel? That was everything about it. Fantastic. Look, it's an absolute shame that the game was kind of killed by putting it on a Thursday night. But, I mean, my God, what a night, you know. I mean, even in our worst season, even at our very lowest, we're still beating Barrow home and away. And I feel like that is quite poetic. It shows that there will always only be one team in Cumbria. And that's us. And they can't lay a glove on us. They can't score against us. You know, it's just... we so needed this, and you know, and I needed this, you know. It's such a good result. I'm not going to pretend like it was some vintage performance, but what I'll say is 3 clean sheets in a row now. Admittedly, there was an element of luck at that when we played Gillingham, but today we looked fantastically good defensively. At Colchester we did the same, and for most of the game against Gillingham we looked really good defensively. Teams are finding it really difficult to beat us. We just can't score, which is why I'm so glad that we finally got a good, decent goal. And I'm not talking about a goal for once from a set piece. I'm not talking about a Sam Lavelle header from a corner, which is where we seem to get most of our goals. I'm talking about a well-worked piece of play with a good finish at the end of it, which is something we've lacked so much this season. And look, it was probably the best bit of play we've ever played, you know, since Simo left. You know, Mike Williamson was all about his passing football, and you know, he's gone, and we've learned how to do it. You know, that like 2 back heels into the striker who manages to get a shot away in a you know, a quite a difficult position. You know, thank Christ for Matthew Dennis, you know. Mark Hughes' first signing, and you know, he scores the goal to give Mark Hughes his first win. Yeah, and he was getting so much grief after last week, and to be fair, probably rightfully so. He had so many good chances. Yeah, he had a lot better chances last week than he did this week, put it that way, but he scored in the match that was the most important. We've kept that record alive of not being beat by Barrow since like the 60s, which is mad. But yeah, it's a result we all needed. It's a result that we all desperately wanted, and it's important because we're now only 2 points from safety. It didn't even look possible, you know. If you think about some of the negativity around the club and everything like that, it felt like we were a million miles away from safety. Now we're only 2 points away from it, and with Tranmere and Morecambe both being Tranmere and Morecambe, I understand that like there's usually a certain points tally to reach at the end of the season to stay up. I think it's going to be lower this year, but I saw somebody saying, and it filled me with a lot of hope, all we've got to do is win one more game than Tranmere and Morecambe come the end of the season. We've stayed up, and I think that's so doable. Tranmere are woeful. You know, it's a big kick in the teeth that they've sacked their manager, because it looked like, or they didn't even sack him. They refused to sack him. He had to walk away from the job himself. But you know, I really hoped that they were going to stick with him, because he was leading them absolutely nowhere. But he's gone, and I just hope they don't get that new manager bounce. But you know, I think him walking away almost does the club a disservice, where he's left and the club's kind of like, oh well, we wanted to stick with him. You know, you can appoint a new manager, and the new manager's going to come in knowing they weren't wanted. Knowing that if the club had their way, they wouldn't have had to make that appointment. So maybe that does us a favour. Maybe the new manager bounce doesn't come for Tranmere. And let's not forget that Accrington and Harrogate are still definitely in this relegation fight. You know, it's not over. And we look like the most sturdy team, which is a big benefit when you're in the relegation fight. I don't care about good play. We look sturdy in these last 3 games at the very least. Even since Mark Hughes came in, even the 2 games we lost, his first 2 games, we look like a sturdy team. We look like a team that, like, if you beat us, you're going to beat us by 1, and we don't concede many goals, and it's in no small part due to the absolute monster in goal, Gabriel Breeze. My God, whoever made that XL Breeze flag, you are an absolute genius, because I've laughed at that since I saw it. It's fantastic. Getting Sky's Man of the Match award as well, he made for a great picture. It almost makes the Thursday night kickoff worth it. I'm joking, please never ever do that again, Sky. And the fans made it known live on Sky how they felt about that. But yeah, Breeze, fantastic keeper. We've got such a talent in our hands there. He's still so young. And he looks like he wants to stay here. That's the best part. If we can manage to stay up this season, we'd be idiots not to go into next season planning the team with, giving him the number 1 shirt and really pushing on with him as our first choice goalkeeper, because get rid of Harry Lewis, get rid of Jude Smith, he doesn't even exist apparently, and we've got a fantastic goalkeeper on our hands there in Gabriel Breeze, and he's just so capable. He looks so experienced beyond his years, because he especially Barrow is probably one of the most well-rounded goalkeeping performances I've seen for quite a long time, and he didn't pull off any worldy saves or anything like that. He just did everything that he was supposed to right. He came and claimed every cross. Even the saves he had to make, most of them he caught. It's them things you don't think about. It's the things like, there was one that he could have very, very easily parried out into the middle, and he didn't. He caught it, and I remember thinking, if that was Harry Lewis, that's going straight back to their striker. But he claims things, and that's why he's such a good goalkeeper. And I really, really like him as our goalkeeper, and it makes me so mad that Paul Simpson was sitting him on the bench for like 2 years when we were stuck with Thomas Waldie and Harry Lewis in nets. It drives me mad, but maybe it's the time Breeze needed. But my God, he's some player now, and he's our number 1. He's Carlisle's number 1, and he deserves to be. Some other performances, Terrell Thomas I thought was fantastic. Sam Lavelle was good. I think Archie Davis, I did like him going forward, but he was a little bit, I'm not going to slate him too much because he didn't do much wrong, but of the back line, he was definitely the one that looked the most rusty, and he's going to look rusty because that's his first 90 minutes in 5 months, I think. But it's so good to have him back. It's so good to have 2 full-backs back into the team, because I was so sick of playing with Jordan Jones as a makeshift left-back and Williams at right wing-back. I'm so glad to have 2 centre-backs and 2 full-backs in the team. A classic good back 4 where the full-backs can get forward a bit, have got a good pass on them each, but know how to do their jobs defensively as well. And it's so rewarding to see. I did find it interesting playing Sedwin Scott at right wing, and I think he had a good game. I think some of his touches, his controls was fantastic, and you could tell how much we missed him when he didn't come off, but he was or did he come off? I can't remember. I just remember Bevan came on and kind of took his place on the right. I can't remember whether Sedwin Scott was taken off or not, or moved to a different position, but my God, the drop off there is insane. Bevan, just, my God, I've never seen a player come off the bench and look tired. It was weird, but yeah. The midfield, I'm so glad Callum Guy's back to his best. My God, we look a completely different team with him in it. I think it's very harsh on Patching, and despite him setting the goal up to against Barrow, I'd almost be tempted to play with Guy and Whelan as the 2 defensive midfielders, with Patching as the number 10 like he played in Ireland, instead of Embleton, because Embleton really hasn't filled me with much confidence, and he certainly wasn't our man of the match against Barrow. But there were positive performances all around. I think Dennis has proved a lot of people wrong with that finish today. I think he did really well, not just with the goal, but also he did everything he did against Gillingham in terms of the good work rate, the getting into good places, but he finished it off with a goal. And for a striker, that's the difference between having a really poor game and having a fantastic game. And I think he did. And it's nice to see one of our strikers score a goal, put it that way. And it couldn't have come against a nicer team. That tifo at the front, I thought it was really funny that that kind of flag they put over the crowd, they couldn't push it any further back because of the massive posts they've got all across that ground. And also, the stand wasn't big enough, so it kind of was folding over the edge. I thought it was really funny that you've kind of just made yourself look like idiots there by making a tifo that's too big for your tiny stadium. But yeah, like I said at the start of the video, even at our worst, we still get 6 points at Barrow. Against Barrow, I should say. But yeah, fantastic all round. I'm just so happy to have got a win. We're just so much more defensively solid now. We've got a proper back line, we've got a proper goalkeeper, which we haven't had in so long. 2 good defensive midfielders in front of them. We're just hard to break down, we're hard to beat, and that's what you need in a relegation fight. And if you can start getting a striker like Dennis, who's going to chip in with a goal every couple of games, we're well on our way to pushing right up this league. And we've got a chance to go to Walsall and finally get back-to-back wins. Well, I suppose Walsall have had to come here. They're top of the league, but they haven't been on fantastic forms. They went on that really bad run. They've kind of come out of it now, but they're not the most informed team in the league. They're top of the league for a reason, of course, but they're not as scary as I think some of the other top teams would be right now. I think if Walsall come to Brunton Park and we beat them, and we end that back-to-back win statistic that's going viral, that's a really big statement of intent. No matter what happens in the other results, I think if we can win against Walsall, that'll be so crucial. Or even just get a point. Make it 4 games unbeaten. Get a point against Walsall. Make it a 1-point gap to the to safety, because we've got a much better goal difference than Tranmere. Morecambe are better than us, of course, but it's if we can get that gap down to 1 point, or even go out of the relegation zone by a point, it's so important at this point in the season. But this game against Barrow, I think I'm going to mention it. The fans were absolutely fantastic. I think it's so cruel to have that game on a Thursday night, because there could have been more. Well, I don't think they would have sold us more, but what I mean is they made it as difficult for the fans as possible, and we still turned up in massive numbers. And I'm so proud to be part of that crowd. I was so proud to be part of that away end. And I will say this as well. I remember going to the Cumbrian Derby, as people call it, a couple of years ago, and I remember it was such a good game. We won, obviously, because we always win there. But I think it was when we won 1-0, and it was Christian Dennis who scored when Farman kind of came off his line. It was in the promotion season, I think. And I remember the home fans really positively surprised me. I was really impressed with how Barrow fans were, how loud their end was. It was a real back and forward between the two sets of supporters, and that, coming into this game, I was expecting the same thing, and I was a little bit disappointed because it was all Carlisle fans. The Barrow end was quite quiet, which from my last experience in Barrow, I wasn't expecting. I was a little bit disappointed by the Barrow fans. Of course, they're on a horrendous run, but it was just worse than ours, and we probably showed them up. But yeah, big win against people like to pretend it's not a derby, but a derby means a game between two teams from the same area, and if you want to consider Cumbria the area, which it is, then it's a Cumbrian derby. It's we don't really have many rivalries, so to have one against the local team. And look, you can't go to that game today and tell me that it doesn't mean a lot to beat them, because that away end, you don't get that if it's not like a derby game. And I've been a derby denier for a while, but you go to that game today, and it how much it meant to me kind of signified that this does mean more than some other games, just because they are a little bit more local, just because almost the BBC Radio Cumbria thing of, sharing a radio station. But yeah, it means so much. I really needed us to win this, for the results as well. But it's such a relief to get a win. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Is this the turn of something new? I hope so. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and in a bit.